Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're here today. Look, if you've spent, literally any time in the aquascaping hobby, you've definitely run into the endless debate about how to get those lush, vibrant, magazine cover underwater gardens. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on some major industry secrets. We're looking directly at insights from Aquascape to decode one of the absolute most fiercely debated topics out there: liquid CO2 versus pressurized cylinders. I mean, are we being sold a miracle in a bottle, or is there actually genuine science backing this up? We're going to break down the chemistry, the marketing, and the hard truth about what your plants actually need. All right, let's dive right in. If you're a beginner setting up your very first tank, you have almost certainly seen this exact, super alluring marketing promise plastered across forums and product descriptions. No CO2 cylinder needed for beautiful plants. And wow, it sounds like an absolute dream, doesn't it? The whole idea that you can just bypass those intimidating, heavy metal cylinders, the regulators, the diffusers, and just rely on a simple bottle to get a breathtaking aquascape? And then they hit you with the follow-up claim: just a few drops a day replaces CO2 completely. Honestly, this is so incredibly tempting because it promises a cheap, completely effortless alternative to all that high-tech gear. Let's be real, high-tech setups, they can be incredibly daunting. They have a way higher initial cost, there's a ton of equipment you have to figure out how to hide, and quite frankly, tuning a regulator can make a newcomer feel completely overwhelmed. So a few drops from a plastic bottle, that feels like the ultimate life hack. And then comes the final hook, the simple solution for non-CO2 tanks. This is the message that draws so many well-meaning hobbyists in. It sets up this massive expectation that you really can have it all without the hassle. But here on this explainer, we love to look at the reality beneath the marketing. Because what actually happens when you pour that liquid into your tank expecting an explosion of red plant growth, and instead, you get melting leaves? Yeah, we need a serious reality check. So let's just ask the big question right now and directly bust this myth. Is liquid CO2 actually CO2? Well, let's think about the actual mechanics of carbon dioxide for a second. For CO2 to exist in a liquid state, it requires an environment with incredibly high pressure. I mean, that is exactly why real CO2 comes in those heavy, thick metal cylinders with heavy-duty pressure regulators. So how on earth could a flimsy, non-pressurized plastic bottle sitting on a pet store shelf contain liquid gas? The short answer? It doesn't. No way. So what are you actually buying? You're definitely not buying liquefied gas. You are buying a chemical called glutaraldehyde, or a very similar aldehyde compound. In the hobby, experienced aquascapers don't even call it liquid CO2. They call it liquid carbon. Because it's a light, liquid organic carbon compound. Sure, plants can utilize a tiny fraction of this carbon, but fundamentally, it is a completely different delivery mechanism than injecting dissolved CO2 gas right into your water column. Now, what's truly fascinating and, okay, maybe a little terrifying, are the real-world applications of glutaraldehyde. We're talking about heavy-duty medical equipment sterilization, intense industrial processing, and biological preservation. Hearing that, you might be panicking a bit, thinking, wait, why on earth am I pouring this into my fish tank? But take a breath. It's okay. In the aquarium hobby, these liquid carbon products are formulated at extremely low, highly diluted dosages. When used correctly, it is perfectly safe. But this chemical reality absolutely demands our respect. To really understand the difference, Aquascape uses this fantastic analogy. Think of pressurized CO2 as a heavy, direct, massive meal for your plants. It provides a high, continuous concentration of dissolved gas right into the water, which perfectly matches a plant's peak photosynthesis needs when they're under strong light. Liquid carbon, on the other hand, is just a light supplement. It's kind of like taking a daily vitamin. It provides a low-dose organic carbon trickle. It is just not going to sustain a high-energy system on its own. So how do they actually stack up head-to-head? Well, while the initial cost of liquid CO2 is wonderfully low, you have to look closely at the performance metrics. If you want to grow difficult plants or achieve those dense, thick carpeting plants like Monte Carlo or dwarf baby tears, liquid carbon is incredibly limited. For that kind of growth, pressurized CO2 is clearly better. Actually, scratch that, it's virtually mandatory. Under high light, plants metabolize so fast that a liquid supplement just literally cannot keep up with their carbon demands. This brings us to a really fascinating pivot. If liquid carbon cannot replace a pressurized cylinder, and if it completely fails to grow a demanding high-tech carpet, why do so many hobbyists swear by it, right? Why are there thousands of reviews online saying, I use this and my tank looks amazing? Well, let's uncover the actual hidden strength of this product in the aquarium hobby. And here is the big reveal. The quote-unquote magic of liquid carbon isn't actually an explosive plant growth. The real superpower is its surprisingly effective ability to act as an algae deterrent. Remember that intimidating chemical name we talked about earlier, glutaraldehyde, and its use as a sterilizer? Well, that chemical nature makes it incredibly hostile to simple cellular organisms like algae, while still being tolerable to complex plants at low doses. Specifically, it is a known assassin for some of the hobby's absolute worst nightmares. We're talking about Black Beard Algae, or BBA, which is notoriously stubborn. It also effectively combats hair algae, staghorn algae, and light brown algae. And here's the secret to why people think it's a miracle plant growth formula. By killing off all this nasty algae, your plants face significantly less competition for light and nutrients, so they naturally look cleaner, brighter, and healthier. It creates this beautiful illusion of a CO2 growth boost, when in reality, you've really just successfully weeded the garden. But, as with literally any potent tool, there is a catch. We have to talk about the cautionary tale here, collateral damage. Because this is a really strong chemical acting as an algicide and a mild carbon supplement, misusing it comes with very real and sometimes devastating risks to the delicate inhabitants of your tank ecosystem. You see, not all plants love liquid carbon. Vallisneria, for example, is notorious for instantly melting into a pile of mush if exposed to it. The exact same goes for delicate floaters and stem plants like richa and hornwort, as well as a lot of sensitive mosses. Their cellular structure is just way too fragile for that aldehyde compound. And we absolutely cannot forget about our livestock. Sensitive invertebrates, particularly bee shrimp and other delicate shrimp species, can become severely stressed or even die off if you overdose or improperly spray this chemical in their home. So how do we actually harness the benefits without completely crashing the tank? Aquascape provides a brilliant, practical, and most importantly, safe usage guide. Step 1. Always start with the manufacturer's recommended dose. Do not double it thinking it's going to work twice as fast. Step 2, if you are tackling a specific patch of black beard algae, use a syringe to spot treat it directly, but make sure to turn your filter off for a few minutes so the chemical stays localized and doesn't just blow all over your sensitive mosses. And step 3, never use liquid carbon to quote-unquote save a fundamentally unbalanced tank. When looking at the top beginner mistakes, the absolutely biggest pitfall is simply thinking this bottle replaces a cylinder. It doesn't. Then there's overdosing for faster growth, which honestly just burns your plants and stresses out your shrimp. But the worst mistake of all is using it to mask bad setups. Look, if your tank has poor water flow, terrible lighting balance, or excessive organic waste, no amount of liquid carbon is going to fix it. A chemical shortcut can never, ever replace fundamental ecosystem stability. You just have to be patient and fix the root causes. So what's the final verdict here? Who should actually be buying liquid carbon? Well, if you have a low-tech tank, meaning moderate to low lighting, with slow-growing, easy plants like Anubias, Java Fern, or Crips, liquid carbon is fantastic. It acts as a gentle supplement and a really great algae preventative. But if you are a high-tech dreamer, wanting those blazing red stem plants, intense lighting, and a thick carpet of greenery covering the substrate, you need to save up for the real deal. High-tech tanks absolutely require pressurized CO2. For sure. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on. Look at your own aquarium setup right now and ask yourself, are you relying on a chemical shortcut to hide deeper imbalances, or do you truly understand the ecosystem you're building? Equipment and supplements, they're just tools. The real secret to a breathtaking aquascape is understanding how light, nutrients, and carbon all interact together. Master the fundamentals, respect the biology, and your tank will absolutely thrive. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I highly encourage you to look closer at the amazing science happening right inside your glass box. Keep learning and happy scaping.